Hey, Echo Tales fam, and welcome to a story that began with a whispered goodbye, rehearsed for an audience of one, me. She didn't know I was in the laundry room when she practiced it, word for word, standing in front of the hallway mirror, coat halfway on. I have to go. You always make me feel trapped. I need to feel alive again. Then a pause. Then she whispered, smiling to herself, "Say it calm. Say it like you mean it." I stood there holding a mismatched sock and a basket full of shirts that still smelled like her shampoo. The dryer buzzed. I didn't move. I think a part of me died in that exact moment, not because she was leaving, but because she had practiced it. You don't rehearse a goodbye unless you've already left. When she finally came downstairs, I was sitting on the couch, TV on, pretending not to notice the suitcase by the door. She didn't look surprised that I was home early. She didn't look at me at all. She just said, "Hey, I won't be long, just staying with Kara tonight. Her mom's in town." Kara again. Funny how she became the scapegoat for every escape. I didn't argue. I didn't ask why she needed a suitcase for a sleepover. I didn't even flinch. I just said it. The line I'd repeated in my head every night for weeks, but never dared to say out loud. "All right, go ahead. But the moment you step out that door, our marriage is finished. Don't ever think about coming back." She stopped mid-zip. Her fingers shook, just a little. "Don't be ridiculous," she said without turning around. "This is just space. You said I could take space." I stood up, slow, calm, and walked over to her. Space isn't planned with a suitcase, and it sure isn't rehearsed in front of the mirror. Her face turned pale. You know when someone realizes the room has been bugged? That was her expression. "You were listening!" "I live here, remember?" I said. Silence. I could see her mind working, building a new lie on top of the last one. Her lips parted, but nothing came. So I opened the door for her, literally held it open. Didn't raise my voice, didn't ask who he was. I didn't need to. I saw the name on the Uber app she'd opened too quickly the night before. Zach is arriving in 4 minutes. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. She walked slowly out, like she expected me to stop her, but I didn't. And she didn't look back. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I missed her. I mean, I did, but it wasn't that kind of ache. It was quieter, like walking through the rooms of your own house and realizing you don't recognize the furniture anymore. Everything was still there, technically, but none of it felt like it belonged to me. The bedroom was too neat. Her perfume still hung in the air, fake and heavy, the way it always did when she was about to lie. I noticed she hadn't taken the framed photo of us from the nightstand, the one from our trip to the Smoky Mountains 3 years ago. We looked happy. Or maybe we just looked like we thought happiness should look. I stared at that photo for a while, then flipped it face down. Around 1:14 a.m., I heard a car pull up. I knew it was hers. I recognized the brakes. She always said they squealed like a guilty conscience. Fitting. I didn't move from the living room. I wanted to see what she'd do, but the engine didn't stop. I peeked through the curtain. She was sitting in the passenger seat of a dark SUV. He was in the driver's seat, tall, confident, wearing one of those smug, fake humble smiles like the kind you see in cologne commercials. He leaned over, kissed her hand, and said something that made her laugh so hard she slapped his arm. And then she shook her head, turned to the house, and said something I'll never forget. "I just need to grab a few things. I won't be long." Won't be long. As if she still believed she had a home to come back to. She got out, started up the walkway, but the door didn't open for her. I locked it from the inside and turned off the lights. She knocked once, then again. "Matt, babe, come on, open the door." Her voice was still sweet, still trying to pretend it wasn't 1 a.m. and she wasn't coming home from someone else's arms. I sat in the dark, completely still. "Okay, you're mad. I get it. Can we just talk?" No. She tried calling my phone. I watched the screen light up. Lena calling. I let it ring again and again. She tried the door handle. Then finally, she stopped pretending. I heard her mutter something under her breath, probably an insult, maybe even my name, and her footsteps faded as she returned to her car. A minute later, the SUV backed out and disappeared into the night. And that's when I realized I wasn't heartbroken. I was relieved. I wasn't enough for her, and maybe I never was, but at least now I had clarity. The pretending was over. That night, I started making a list of everything she left behind. Not just clothes and furniture, but the little things. The bottle cap collection I started because she said it was quirky. The notebook full of meal plans I made when she said she wanted to eat healthier. The anniversary card I spent 2 hours picking out just last month, never opened, still in the drawer. She left all of it, so I started boxing it up, one item at a time, calm, focused, no music, no tears. And when I was done, I took out a new notebook. On the first page, I wrote, "This is the story of the door she chose." The next morning, I sat at the kitchen table with a pen and a cold cup of coffee, staring at the list I had started the night before. It looked more like an inventory of a museum exhibit than remnants of a marriage. Her favorite mugs, the cardigan she always wore when she was sick, that ridiculous flamingo wine opener she insisted we keep after a vacation in Florida. Each item felt like a fragment of a person I used to know. But now they just felt like clutter, dusty echoes. I started packing around 7 a.m., not because I had the energy, but because I didn't want to sit in the silence anymore. It felt like the walls were watching me, judging me, like they remembered every fight we whispered through gritted teeth and every fake smile we put on for friends. So I boxed up her life methodically, one room at a time. No music, just the sound of cardboard flaps folding and packing tape tearing. There was no ceremony to it, no anger, no sentimentality, just a quiet, robotic motion. Wrap, fold, seal. I kept thinking I'd find something that would break me, maybe a love letter or an old ticket stub from when we actually used to enjoy each other. But no, not even a photo album. Not even a sticky note with an "I love you" left on the fridge. It was like she had been erasing herself from our life long before I caught on. By the time I reached the hallway closet, I found something unexpected. A red shoebox tucked behind winter coats. I opened it, expecting old scarves or maybe receipts. But instead, it was filled with tiny objects. A matchbook from an Italian restaurant we never went to, a black tie clip, a guitar pick, a wrinkled cocktail napkin with a name and number scrawled in faint ink. "See you Thursday, Z." I sat on the floor and stared at it all. These weren't memories. They were trophies. Each item was a moment I wasn't part of, a night she didn't come home, a lie she sold me with a tired kiss on the cheek. I held the napkin like it might burn through my fingers. Who was Z? I could guess, but I didn't want to confirm it. I'd already seen enough, already felt the weight of everything she never said out loud. That was the worst part, I think. The silence. The quiet betrayal. She didn't scream, she didn't curse me. She just replaced me without saying a word. I threw the shoebox into the trash, but I kept the napkin. Not because I wanted to confront her. I didn't need to. That ship had sailed, and she was already on board with someone else. No, I kept it because I needed something real, something physical to prove I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't just the insecure husband with trust issues. I placed it on top of the sealed box, labeled "Bedroom Hers," and stared at it like it was evidence in a trial that would never happen. She didn't text, she didn't call. Not that day, not the next. And I didn't reach out either. Because when someone rehearses their goodbye and still walks out knowing what it means, there's nothing left to fix. The apology was supposed to come before the suitcase, not after.
2 days passed, and the house still smelled like her shampoo. It clung to the air like a memory, trying not to be forgotten. I kept thinking the scent would fade, that it would stop ambushing me when I walked through the hallway or leaned over the bathroom sink. But it didn't. It was like the ghost of her was still pacing the floorboards while I tried to pretend I was fine. I wasn't. I kept telling myself that packing her things was closure, that locking the door behind her was a clean ending. But it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a long pause after a sentence I didn't get to finish. So I sat with it. I sat with the silence and the echo of her laugh that still lived in the walls. I didn't know what to do with myself. So I did something I never imagined I would. I turned on her old tablet, the one she left in the kitchen drawer, like it didn't matter. Probably forgot about it entirely. It wasn't even password protected. What I found hit harder than I was ready for. At first, it was harmless. Pinterest boards of plant houses and minimalist kitchens, online carts full of overpriced boots. But then, I opened the photo gallery. That's when my stomach turned. Not because she had photos with him, though she did. It was where they were taken that tore something open inside me. Our cabin. The one we built together with our bare hands, sanding floors and painting walls every summer weekend for a year. The one she said she was too tired to visit last month. The one I went to alone 2 weekends ago because I needed space and thought I was the problem. There they were, laughing on our deck, lying in our hammock. Her wearing the flannel shirt I left hanging on the coat rack. Him holding the mug I made her in that pottery class she made fun of. And the worst part? She looked happy. Unapologetically, effortlessly happy, like she wasn't living a double life, like I didn't even exist. I should have stopped scrolling. I didn't. There was a video. It started mid-laugh, her voice giddy and bright. "He still thinks I'm with Kara. Can you believe that?" Then his voice. "He seems harmless. He'll figure it out eventually." They laughed. I didn't. I couldn't even feel my hands anymore. Just a burning pressure behind my eyes and a ringing in my ears that wouldn't stop. They thought I was harmless, that I was clueless, that my silence was weakness. I sat there on the floor of the kitchen, screens still glowing in my lap, and felt the humiliation rise up like bile. I don't remember when I stood up, but I found myself pacing like I was trying to wear holes into the tile. Then I did something I never thought I would. I turned on her old tablet, the one she left in the kitchen drawer, like it didn't matter. Probably forgot about it entirely. It wasn't even password protected. What I found hit harder than I was ready for. At first, it was harmless. Pinterest boards of plant houses and minimalist kitchens, online carts full of overpriced boots. But then, I opened the photo gallery. That's when my stomach turned. Not because she had photos with him, though she did. It was where they were taken that tore something open inside me. Our cabin. The one we built together with our bare hands, sanding floors and painting walls every summer weekend for a year. The one she said she was too tired to visit last month. The one I went to alone 2 weekends ago because I needed space and thought I was the problem. There they were, laughing on our deck, lying in our hammock. Her wearing the flannel shirt I left hanging on the coat rack. Him holding the mug I made her in that pottery class she made fun of. And the worst part? She looked happy. Unapologetically, effortlessly happy, like she wasn't living a double life, like I didn't even exist. I should have stopped scrolling. I didn't. There was a video. It started mid-laugh, her voice giddy and bright. "He still thinks I'm with Kara. Can you believe that?" Then his voice. "He seems harmless. He'll figure it out eventually." They laughed. I didn't. I couldn't even feel my hands anymore. Just a burning pressure behind my eyes and a ringing in my ears that wouldn't stop. They thought I was harmless. They thought I was clueless, that my silence was weakness. I sat there on the floor of the kitchen, screen still glowing in my lap, and felt the humiliation rise up like bile. I don't remember when I stood up, but I found myself pacing like I was trying to wear holes into the tile. Then I did something I never thought I would. I turned on her old tablet, the one she left in the kitchen drawer, like it didn't matter. Probably forgot about it entirely. It wasn't even password protected. The message read, "I saw the video. Short, bare, enough." I didn't expect a reply, and I didn't get one. Not from him, not from her. But that silence felt more honest than any apology they could have mustered. People like that, they don't say sorry. They just vanish, hoping your pain does too.
I didn't sleep again that night. I sat in the driveway, inside my car in the dark, gripping the steering wheel like I was waiting for something. Maybe a sign. Maybe courage. Maybe her headlights returning. I don't know. But nothing came. The next morning, I did something even more pathetic. I drove to the cabin. Ours. The one from the photos. I had to see it with my own eyes to know it was real. Like somehow confronting the space would help me reclaim it. The drive felt longer than usual. Every curve of the mountain road scraped something raw inside me. By the time I pulled into the gravel path, my fingers were stiff on the wheel. The cabin looked exactly the same. That hurt more than if they'd burned it down. The porch lights were still on. The empty hammocks swayed slightly in the breeze. I stepped inside and immediately smelled her perfume, faint but distinct, like she'd left it behind on purpose. On the kitchen counter was an open bottle of red wine and 2 glasses, still with traces of lipstick on the rim. Hers, the same shade she wore on our anniversary dinner 3 months ago. The same night she claimed she had a migraine and went to bed early. I checked the trash. 2 takeout boxes from a restaurant we used to love, the kind of place that books up weeks in advance. I remember because I once waited 3 months to get us a table for her birthday. They had ordered it in, together. On a twisted impulse, I pulled up the restaurant's website and tried the reservation tool. The last booking made under her name was a week ago, for 2. I sat on the edge of the couch, our couch, and just stared at the screen, thinking about how many lies can fit inside a single week. I looked around the room. Our board games were still stacked on the shelf. The blanket we picked out together was draped over the armrest. Even the cheap lamp we argued about buying was still there, flickering like it was struggling to stay alive, just like our marriage had been. But then something new caught my eye. A receipt tucked under a wine bottle. His name was on it. Zachary Lane. I finally had it. Confirmation. Not just initials or guesses, a full name. And suddenly, that changed everything. I snapped a photo of the receipt. I didn't know what I was going to do with it yet, but I knew this wasn't going to end with me curled up in a cabin full of ghosts. If she wanted to move on without consequences, she should have burned the evidence. But she didn't. She left it lying around like I wouldn't notice, like I wouldn't matter. I cleaned up the glasses. Not for her, for me. I took the wine and poured it out behind the cabin. Then I turned off the porch light and locked the door. As I drove away, I felt lighter. Not better, but lighter. I wasn't harmless. I wasn't clueless. I just hadn't decided what to do yet. But now I had a name.
I didn't go home right away. I drove around for hours with the windows down and my phone off. Every red light felt like a moment to reconsider everything. Every memory, every warning sign I ignored.
Every time I'd let her convince me that her late-night showers and sudden phone calls were nothing to worry about. I used to think love meant trust. Now I realize it also means risk. The risk of being completely wrong about someone. By the time I pulled into my driveway, the sun had already dipped below the trees, casting long, slanted shadows across the porch. The same porch she once decorated with string lights and pumpkins back when she still cared about weekends. I didn't even make it inside. I sat on the steps, watching the street like something was supposed to happen. Maybe, deep down, I was hoping she'd come back. Maybe I wanted her to see my car, to realize I'd been to the cabin, that I knew, but she didn't come. Instead, I went inside and did something I hadn't dared to do yet. I opened my laptop and typed Zachary Lane into every platform I could find. Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and there he was. I didn't expect what I saw next. I recognized him, not just from the photo at the cabin. I recognized him from somewhere closer, more personal. My stomach turned when I clicked on one of his older profile pictures. Him shaking hands with someone at a conference. My boss. My boss! And there in the background was me, blurred out, half-turned, sipping coffee at the corner of the frame. He had been around me before. We'd been in the same room. I scrolled faster, my fingers trembling. Another post. Great time at the engagement party last year. Congrats to the happy couple, Lena and Matt. And there he was, smiling in the group photo, standing behind her, one hand raised in a toast. She invited him. She brought him into our circle, into our home. That was the breaking point. It wasn't the cheating, it wasn't the lying. It was the calculated audacity. The way she let him into our lives like he was just another friend. All while I stood there, grinning in photos and pouring wine, completely unaware I was entertaining the man who would eventually steal everything from me. I closed the laptop and just sat there. It wasn't rage I felt. It was something deeper, heavier, like grief. But for what? The illusion? The version of her I thought was real? Or the version of me I had lost along the way? Too passive, too trusting, too eager to believe that love was enough? I thought about texting her, about sending her the photo, the video, the receipt. But I didn't. Instead, I printed them all out, one by one, laid them neatly inside an envelope. Then I took out a second sheet of paper and started writing. Not a letter, not an accusation, just a list. A list of things she left behind that weren't physical. Things I never agreed to give up, but lost anyway. Trust, time, dignity, sleep, self-respect. The last item I wrote down was the one that hurt the most. My own voice. Because through all of it, I had remained quiet, silent, polite. But that was going to change. Not by screaming or starting a war. No. I was going to let the truth speak for itself. I was going to make sure she heard it.
She returned 3 days later, like nothing had happened. Just strolled through the door in those same tan boots I'd once complimented her on back when I still noticed little things. She was humming something under her breath, some upbeat, forgettable song, and holding a takeout bag like she was doing me a favor by bringing dinner. I didn't say a word. I was already seated at the dining table, calm, hands folded, just waiting. She paused when she saw me, but only for a second. That's how confident she was. How sure she was that I would still be here, still waiting, still willing to forget everything for the sake of pretending. "Hey," she said casually, setting the bag on the counter. "I brought pad thai, your favorite. I figured we could talk." Still, I said nothing. She walked toward me slowly, like she was entering a familiar room in a dream. But then she saw the table, and everything changed. It wasn't the food or the silence that stopped her. It was the envelope. The thick, slightly wrinkled envelope I had placed at the center of the table, like a centerpiece no one wanted to acknowledge. She didn't reach for it. She didn't sit down. "What's that?" she asked, her voice tight now, controlled, like she already knew. "You should open it." She didn't move. So I stood, pushed the envelope gently toward her, and backed away. She picked it up with shaky fingers, pulled out the photos, the receipt, the screenshots, the napkin, the video stills. Her hands didn't tremble. Her expression didn't crack. That made it worse. All she said was, "How long have you known?" I let the question hang in the air, thick and ugly. Then I answered with something I hadn't planned. Long enough to realize you weren't coming back for me, just for control. That hit her. Not hard, but deep, like a pin pressed slowly against the skin. She sat down finally, but not to apologize. She started explaining, rambling, actually. Something about how she was confused, how we'd grown distant, how Zach had just been there, how it started with texts and turned into something more. She insisted it wasn't planned, that it wasn't supposed to happen like this. I listened to every word, not because I believed any of it, but because I needed to hear the sound of her unraveling. Then she said the most predictable thing she could have possibly said. It didn't mean anything. That's when I laughed. Because that phrase, that worn-out, empty phrase, was what people said when they ran out of truth. I stood and looked her straight in the eyes. It meant enough for you to risk everything we had. It meant enough for you to take him to our cabin. It meant enough to keep lying while I sat here, shrinking. She didn't argue. She just looked at the floor like it would forgive her if she stared hard enough. And then she asked, "So what now?" I took a breath, walked over to the drawer, and pulled out a second envelope. This one was smaller. Inside was a letter, not from me, but from my lawyer. I'm not going to scream, I'm not going to beg, I'm not even angry anymore. But you don't get to walk in here and act like this is still your life. She didn't open the envelope. She didn't have to. She already knew what was inside. She didn't say goodbye when she left. No tears, no last-minute confession, no dramatic outburst, just silence and the sound of the door closing, this time from the outside. I stood there for a while, not moving, not thinking, just breathing. And for the first time in a long time, it didn't feel like I was waiting for anything. The house was still peaceful. Even the absence of her presence didn't sting like I thought it would. In fact, it felt like clarity, like walking out of a fog and realizing how far you'd wandered from yourself. Over the next few days, I changed things, not out of spite, but out of necessity. I rearranged the furniture, donated the things she left behind, took down the pictures that made the walls feel like a lie. I bought a plant I knew I'd probably forget to water, but it felt good to take care of something, even if it was just a fern. I started cooking again, not just frozen dinners or microwave meals, but real food, things that sizzled, things that smelled like life. I played music while I cooked, filled the empty spaces with something that wasn't sadness. I opened windows. I breathed. One evening, while cleaning out the garage, I found a box labeled college stuff. Inside was a dusty notebook full of sketches. My sketches, from when I used to draw before I convinced myself I didn't have time for it. I smiled, opened to a blank page, and started again. Slowly, awkwardly, but freely, like I had nothing to prove, because I didn't. I wasn't the man she left. I was someone better, someone rediscovering himself. A few weeks later, I ran into an old friend at the grocery store, someone who used to know both of us. He asked me how I was doing, if I was okay. I looked him straight in the eyes and said, "I'm doing more than okay. I'm finally breathing on my own." And I meant it. This isn't the story of a marriage that failed. It's the story of a man who stopped shrinking to fit into someone else's idea of love. She walked out and thought she took everything. But the truth is, I never needed her to come back. I just needed me.
This was the final part of the story. Thank you for being here. Now it's your turn.
Have you ever found something in your own story that helped you grow even after betrayal? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about it. You've been watching Echo Tales. If this story moved you, hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe to Echo Tales for more real, raw stories like this one every week. And remember, sometimes the ending you didn't want is exactly the one you needed.